So before anyone assumes anything because of the title of this video, I have not read ahead, and in fact I've only read the first chapter of my Dress Up Darlings manga, and the reason for that is because the entire first chapter is the entire first episode of the anime, which is honestly shocking just because of how much content was within the first episode of the anime. So before I go any further, I know many might quickly assume that the reason why I'm making this video is because apparently maybe the anime left something out from the manga. That is actually not the case. I am making this video because, for one, I need to satiate my desire for my Dress Up Darling. Like, I have been really craving on reading the manga, and I was like, okay, I need to get something out of my system with this series, and so I decided to just sit down, read the first chapter, and I want to kind of talk about the first episode while talking about the manga's first chapter, and maybe it might hold me off from reading ahead, because right now, it's becoming very difficult for me to do that, so maybe I can kind of position these videos in between the week before the episode comes out, for I could kind of hold back my, craving to read the manga. But okay, with that out of the way, I want to show a good example of just how much effort, passion, and love has been put into this anime project, My Dress Up Darling. I think it'll speak for itself when I actually just show you. So, this is the manga. This is the manga's first chapter, towards the end of the chapter, where Gojo is analyzing Kitagawa's outfit, her cosplay attire that she made herself. And you can see from just the entire panel, it is just dialogue. That's all it is. There's nothing really showcasing what he's really looking at. We don't really get a good depiction on what he's really critiquing. So anyone that is, let's say, not an expert when it comes to cosplay or weaving clothing or whatever, will have really no idea what Gojo is kind of talking about. And maybe the reason for that is for we can relate with Kitagawa in that given moment. However, if you go to the anime showcases everything that Gojo was looking at. Every little seam and every little thing that he was critiquing from Kitagawa's outfit, he was pointing out. And we got to see visually from the anime. And so clearly there is a big difference between the anime and manga in that given moment. And I know many are going to say, oh, okay, this is crazy actually. I mean, it's obviously the same dialogue, but being able to see the little details actually adds so much more that actually blew my mind. So let me kind of explain why this is kind of crazy, but also why I am so happy to actually see the differences between the anime and manga. So anime and manga, clearly there is obviously going to always be differences. You're going to have it to where the manga is always going to have individual panels that look outright excellent. For instance, you're going to have the individual art because a mangaka is able to give more time, dedicated time, to individual frames of a panel to really make it look actually insane. While as for an anime, the animators have to pick and choose what they really want to make look good. For instance, they have to make multiple animation cells and frames, etc., and they have so much that they have to work on for an individual episode. So they don't always have the time, basically, to make every single scene just pop out and be even better than the manga. However, if, for instance, everything lines up, the stars align, the passion is there, the work effort's there, for instance, you have it to where there is enough time for them to be able to focus on the project, then you get stuff like what happened in the episode of My Dress Up Darling, the first episode. They added stuff, because they could have easily have added a still frame kind of panning over Kitagawa, not really kind of showing anything but just her face or just a zoom out or whatever, and that's all they definitely needed to do. But the team behind My Dress Up Darling went in and actually added those little details that just gives so much more life to the show. And for someone like myself that has really no idea what it really takes to put into cosplay, what it means to really weave clothing together, I would have had no idea what Gojo was really talking about if it was just a voiceover. But actually seeing the individual scenes with Kitagawa's outfit is really telling to the level of attention to detail that the staff is putting in to the series. So I know people are going to be quick to say, so you're saying the anime is better than manga. Okay, here's the thing. I'm not saying the anime is 100% better than the manga. I'm saying the anime is doing what an anime should do, using the medium that it's been given to be able to elevate the original source to an entirely new level. Because, as I've always said in these type of videos when it comes to me talking about the manga and anime comparison, is that one thing that always needs to be remembered is that anime has so much more to it. It has voice acting, sound effects, music, and movement. And this is something that a manga obviously cannot replicate. Obviously, there's some gorgeous manga out there. One Punch Man comes to mind, Vagabond comes to mind, Berserk comes to mind, that have excellent paneling, beautiful artwork that honestly I doubt any anime can truly replicate to such a point. But here is the big detail though, is that is where manga excels. Individual panels that just stand out. While as anime, they have so much other little utilities that they can add that elevates it in a different way. And in this case, we get to see where all the stars align and the staff that is working on My Dress Up Darling is bringing in their A game to give the best product that they possibly can. And I am just downright impressed. Just that difference alone really is just telling for what we've gotten so far from the adaptation of My Dress Up Darling's anime. But obviously, there is a lot more details to dive into. One thing in particular that I want to point out, especially if we're on the topic with the cosplay, is that when you look at the tone from the manga, you get this tone of Gojo is being very harsh towards Kitagawa. Like, he is really just being straight up harsh and just telling this person like it is, straight up, and, you know, not really showing any concern for what Kitagawa may be thinking in that moment. Obviously, he realizes his mistake, and he says he's very sorry right after that, and this is the same thing that happens in the anime. But in the anime, we get to see kind of Gojo's thought process, and we know that in that moment, he wasn't really trying to put down Kitagawa by any means, but in the manga, there's just two different feelings you get from it. There is very different feelings, and I like that, because I feel like in the manga standpoint, we get Kitagawa's feelings more, while in the anime, we get Gojo's feelings more. So that is something I do want to point out. But another thing, there is other details, other differences from the first chapter in the first episode. One is the symbolism with the curtain and Gojo basically saying that he shouldn't be there or he shouldn't exist. This scene is briefly cut off in the manga and the dialogue doesn't really get to finish and we don't get to see the symbolic nature of the curtain kind of covering Gojo like the anime did. And I feel like that extra little fluff, that element, wasn't obviously needed, but it does add a lot more to Gojo's character and his overall mental state to kind of hammer in what he feels about by his current environment and life and all of that. And I feel like, once again, as already said, I feel like the anime really dives into Gojo's personality more, while the manga focuses on Kitagawa more. Her feelings are kind of getting her overall vibe and tone out there. Which, speaking of more differences besides that, we have in the anime, Kitagawa flies and kind of lands near Gojo. It's very overdramatic, and it's just like, what is going on? You know, a human shouldn't fly that far, because obviously, if you're to fly that far and hit something, it's probably going to really hurt you. And obviously, Kitagawa is fine. Like I said, it's just dramatic, but in the manga, that does not happen. She just kind of slightly bumps into Gojo's desk, and that is one of the biggest differences between the anime and manga, is that it was over dramatic in the anime, but the manga wasn't. And personally, I prefer the manga's edition of it. I mean, I do like how Kitagawa is introduced in the anime, but the manga's version of it I feel like handles it in such a realistic manner. So this is one of those certain moments where I feel like the manga did surpass that, and I guess the only reason why the anime did it was to really just add so much drama to that scene, to really make you focus on just how much life Kitagawa actually brings to the room, and that Gojo is someone that's kind of the exact opposite. He lives in the exact opposite world, where he sucks the life out of a room. He feels like he's just darkness, basically. So that's probably what they were going with when it came to the anime, but once again, I feel like that over-dramatic entrance wasn't really needed, because the manga just handles it in such a better way. But if we're looking at other scenes, we got the, you know, overall backstory of Gojo's parents. In the anime, I talked about this on my first episode review, that Gojo has, you know, just his grandpa. And we see a picture that we could assume is Gojo's family, his parents, grandparents, etc. And it's never actually stated within the first episode if they're dead, but you can only assume because of just the imagery and what is shown throughout the first episode. While as in the manga, it gets straight to the point and says that Gojo basically has been left alone and the only person he really has is his grandpa. So this little detail just goes to show the discrepancies between the anime and manga, that an anime used its medium to tell a story without words, while a manga needs to just downright state it because there's only a few amount of panels that you can have in individual chapters, and so they don't always have as much time as they need to be able to dive into every little detail of the world, which is why there wasn't so many emphasis like on the outfit of Kitagawa. So what I'm trying to point out here is that it's clear as day that Cloverworks, that is working on the project My Dress Up Darling, is putting in everything they possibly can into the series. And I feel like anyone that is a manga reader is probably just dying with joy right now. Like, they are absolutely living a good life right now because the series is getting properly treated. Like, it is being used in every way, shape, or form to elevate its original source to a whole new level that just, honestly, I have so much more respect for the anime now, after just seeing the first chapter of the manga. Now, I'm not trying to downplay and say that the manga is bad. I feel like many might get that assumption. I am not saying that. The manga is beautiful. It is a good freaking manga. All I'm trying to say, though, is that I have a newfound respect for the series, just seeing the differences and the similarities between both content, and just, I'm impressed. I'm really impressed by the amount of love and effort that Cloverworks has put into the project, and I definitely can't wait to actually see what the upcoming chapters are, like Chapter 2, maybe Chapter 3, for Episode 2, to kind of see the differences there. But, yeah, I just wanted to briefly talk about that, just, talk about the differences and how good it is, actually, the choices that they made. But let me know your thoughts. How did you feel about the differences I showed you? There might be a little bit more that I missed, and if I did, let me know in the comments below. But thank you so much for everybody that tuned into this video. If you enjoyed it by any way, or like any means, please leave me a like and subscribe if you want more of my content to appear in your YouTube feed. But with that, be safe, stay healthy, everyone. Chibi out.